You the first lady I ever took serious enough for being a bust. I'm not a fool, go tie your shoe, we not a couple.
This Jamila Smith, a 30-year-old devoted mother of two from Carolina, who never imagined that the life she had built with her family would spiral into unimaginable horror. But on one fateful night, everything would change when she would be run over by her own husband while she was on a 911 call. It started with a desperate 911 call, one that would haunt the officers who took it. The voice on the other end was terrified, frantic, pleading for mercy. "No, don't touch me, don't hurt me. Please, you hit me. I can't feel my arm. You ran me over." But what came next was even more chilling. Jamila would vanish without a trace. It wasn't until May 10th, 2024, nearly 6 months after she vanished, investigators would locate Jamila's remains in a rural wooded area. The cause of death was even more horrific than they could have imagined. Jamila had been shot multiple times in the head. As the investigation unfolded, the shocking truth came to light. Jamila's killer was none other than her husband, the man who had sworn to love and protect her. But this was just the beginning of a twisted series of events, one that no one could have predicted. But before we get to that tragic moment that changed everything, let me take you back to where this seemingly perfect love story began. 25-year-old Jamila Chen Smith, born on January 15, 1993 in Jackson, South Carolina, was a young woman with a deep connection to her roots and a heart full of love for her family. Growing up in a tight-knit household, she was shaped by the strong bond she shared with her loved ones. The central figure in Jamila's life was her mother, Tina McCraw, a woman whose influence and support were unwavering. Tina's nurturing presence provided Jamila with a foundation of love and security, which she in turn carried forward into her own life. But Jamila's dedication to her family was evident in two individuals. It was in her children. Her two sons were the focal point of her universe, and she lived her life with one singular goal: to provide them with a better future. Whether it was through offering them the emotional support they needed or working tirelessly to give them opportunities that would break generational cycles, Jamila's love for her children was boundless. She believed in the power of hard work and sacrifice, ensuring that her sons would grow up knowing that they were loved and cared for beyond measure. Though her life was filled with joy and love, Jackson, the small town in South Carolina where Jamila lived, was not without its challenges. Known for its quiet suburban atmosphere with a touch of rural charm, Jackson had its own set of complexities. It was considered a relatively safe town by most standards, but like many places, it wasn't immune to the darker undercurrents of society, particularly issues like domestic violence that often went unspoken but affected many in the community, which would tragically be the same fate Jamila would later face. Despite the town's troubles, Jamila made a name for herself through her work as a hairstylist. Following her graduation from Pine Forest High School in 2011, Jamila set out on a path that would define her future. She was determined to pursue a career that aligned with her creative passions, and hairdressing was the perfect fit. Jamila attended beauty school where she honed her skills and expanded her knowledge of the industry. It wasn't just about learning how to cut hair, it was about learning how to make a person feel special. Over time, Jamila became known for her artistic touch, with many people seeking her out not only for a haircut, but for the unique, personalized experiences she provided in her salon chair. Her creativity, passion, and dedication to her craft made her a beloved figure in the local community. Her talent as a stylist was undeniable. Her clients admired her for both her technical skill and her ability to make anyone feel beautiful. Jamila wasn't just a stylist, she was a healer of sorts, offering her clients more than just a new haircut, but also a dose of confidence and self-worth. In addition to her work, Jamila's personality was magnetic.
took serious enough for being a bust. I'm not a fool, go tell your shoe, we not a couple.
Friends and family alike described her as a woman who loved to laugh, someone whose infectious energy could brighten up any room she entered. Her laughter, often the loudest in any gathering, was a reflection of her optimistic spirit and her love for life. She believed in the power of positivity and always tried to make the best out of any situation, no matter how difficult life might have been at times. But Jamila's creativity went beyond her work. It was reflected in the way she lived her life. She expressed herself through every aspect of her day, whether it was the way she dressed, the way she decorated her home, or the way she engaged with others. Her free-spirited nature and zest for life were infectious. Jamila's life, though filled with hard work and dedication, was not without its complexities. Jamila's love life, however, was far from simple. Sadly, Jamila would cross paths with a man who would change the course of her life forever. Despite her nurturing and warm nature, she found herself involved in a relationship filled with conflict and pain. And in it was Daniel Gabriel Harmon, a 34-year-old man who, on the surface, seemed to offer the companionship and emotional connection Jamila was seeking. However, beneath the surface, Daniel's history of violence and criminal behavior was troubling. It was a reality that Jamila would eventually come to confront head-on. Daniel's troubled past was well documented, with a long history of arrests and charges that painted a disturbing picture. His criminal record included multiple incidents of domestic violence, assault, and even altercations with law enforcement in both Richmond County, Georgia, and Aiken County, South Carolina, where he amassed a staggering 100 pages of incident reports. These reports painted a portrait of a man who had been in and out of the legal system for years, constantly entangled in trouble and violence. But that wasn't all. One of the most notable events in Daniel's criminal history occurred on November 25, 2013, when he pled guilty to misdemeanor aggravated assault and possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime. This plea stemmed from a December 29, 2012 incident in which Daniel attacked a man. His criminal behavior didn't stop there. On July 29, 2016, Daniel was again found guilty, this time for assault in relation to an incident in January 2015, where he grabbed a woman by the throat and struck her twice on the head with a closed fist. At the time, he was sentenced to enroll in a drug counseling program and also enroll in the Family Violence Intervention Program. But this was only the iceberg for Daniel. In May 2019, in North Augusta, when police were trying to conduct a traffic stop, he had struck a police officer. He was charged with assault and battery. Daniel was a repeat offender who knew no other life than committing crimes. The pattern of violence was undeniable, yet Jamila, against the warnings of many, gave him a chance which would eventually cost her life. At the time, Jamila believed that she could help Daniel change, that her love and support could be the key to helping him turn his life around. This hope, however, would be short-lived. The relationship quickly deteriorated into something darker, with Daniel's abusive tendencies becoming more pronounced. His behavior escalated over time, and what began as an occasional incident of violence soon became a regular and terrifying part of Jamila's life. But despite the growing signs of abuse, Jamila had a child with Daniel, a little boy who quickly became the center of her world. For Jamila, this child was her reason for pushing forward, the light that kept her going even during the darkest moments. Her love for her children was unconditional, and she worked tirelessly to provide for them. She dreamed of a future where they could live free from the fear and pain that had begun to dominate her own life. Even as Daniel's abuse continued, Jamila refused to give up on her dream of building a better life for her children. She had always believed in the power of family and perseverance, and this belief kept her going through the most trying times. Her resilience became one of her defining traits, a mother who would do anything to protect her children,
even if it meant giving up her life. On one occasion of Daniel's outburst, Jamila had to call the police to their apartment due to a domestic violence incident. But this wasn't the first time the situation had escalated to this point. Daniel also had a troubling history of self-harm and had made multiple alarming threats in the past, saying he would kill Jamila and then take his own life. These threats only added to the intensity of the danger Jamila faced. In November, just a few weeks later, a deputy would respond to a couple's domestic dispute in Jamila's home. It was revealed that Daniel had choked and scratched Jamila. He noted that there was dried blood on his nails. But tragically, this incident wouldn't be compared to the horrors she would later face. On the evening of December 2nd, 2023, Jamila was in a car with her boyfriend, Daniel Harmon. According to reports, an argument between them escalated as they drove around Jackson. Jamila, who had been trying to distance herself from Daniel due to his violent behavior, managed to call her mother, Tina, and explain that they were having a fight while in the car. But this argument would escape to something no one could have imagined. Later that evening, things took a violent turn. Daniel, in a fit of rage, broke into Jamila's apartment, forcing her to leave with him. As they drove, Jamila tried to escape on foot, running down the street in an attempt to flee from Daniel. At that moment, she made her final 911 call, saying, "No, don't touch me, don't hurt me. I can't feel my arm, you ran me over." Jamila screamed into the phone, her voice filled with terror. The call dropped, but not before dispatchers heard the engine of a car revving and Jamila's frantic pleas for help. It was clear that something horrific had just occurred. It wasn't until later that the full extent of the violence would unfold. Daniel, in a rage, ran Jamila over with his car. He then attempted to convince her to get back into the vehicle, telling her that he would take her to the hospital. Jamila refused, still crying out in pain. But tragically, the situation was already beyond saving. Jamila's mother, Tina, became frantic when she did not hear from her daughter, as promised. Jamila was supposed to come pick her child, but she was nowhere to be found. She immediately contacted the police and reported her daughter missing. Officers responded quickly to the call, but they soon learned that Jamila was not the only person in danger. Daniel had already become a suspect in the case. Police found him in North Augusta just days later and began to piece together the horrific events that led to Jamila's disappearance. Authorities also seized Daniel's vehicle, a Dodge Charger, which was found to contain suspected blood in the trunk. The investigation was underway, and Jamila's family hoped that this would lead to answers about her whereabouts. However, as days passed with no sign of Jamila, the situation became even more dire. Investigators began gathering evidence, including swabs from the vehicle and Jamila's cell phone records. When they examined the phone, they discovered that there had been no activity since the day of the attack. This was a clear sign that something had gone terribly wrong.
And now an update on a missing person story. We told you about this one yesterday.
Yeah, there are more charges for the ex-boyfriend of a missing mother. News Channel 6's Renetta Dubose reports.
She's a good person. One thing about her, I know she loves her kid. You love her kid. That's all she talk about. And she loves singing.
Friends fondly share about Jamila Smith. The 30-year-old mother of two young sons has not been heard from since the evening of Saturday, December 2nd, when she spoke on the phone with her mother.
She called me from his phone around 3, and she said, Daniel threw my phone out of the window on I-20.
An Aiken County incident report tells us that Smith's mother, Tina McCraw, had police conduct a welfare check December 3rd, and that's when she learned her daughter was missing. The day prior, she says her daughter's ex-boyfriend and father to her youngest child, 34-year-old Daniel Harmon, was going car shopping with her in Columbia, South Carolina, when an argument turned into him throwing that phone out the window. They returned to Augusta around 6:30, the last time she spoke with Smith.
We didn't find out about the domestic violence until around this time last year.
Records News Channel 6 uncovered confirmed the history of domestic violence. In November, Aiken County Sheriff's Office responded to a domestic situation at Smith's home in Jackson, where deputies saw evidence that Harmon choked and scratched Smith, citing dried blood on his fingernails. That deputy petitioning a domestic charge against Harmon.
She would call me upset. We would see her with bruises.
The last day Smith was heard from, Aiken County Dispatch received a call from a woman they later learned was Smith. She said her ex-boyfriend showed up and she ran down the street to get away. She screamed, and dispatch heard a man saying, "Get in a vehicle," and a horn blowing before complete silence. The sheriff's office located Harmon, who was also missing, and arrested him Tuesday at a home on Carpentersville Road in North Augusta. He's being charged with kidnapping Smith and also a domestic charge too. Smith's loved ones say, despite rumors online, she was not the aggressor in the relationship, but the victim trying to save herself and her children.
Millie's very caring, loving, funny. I don't know what they're trying to paint about her, his family, that she's some drug addict. I know everybody's seen this video of them at the fair, but he had got into it, and she was just trying to diffuse the situation.
Authorities also reviewed Jamila's past complaints of domestic violence, which painted a grim picture of her relationship with Daniel Harmon. The most disturbing part of the investigation came when the results of the blood samples taken from Daniel's car were analyzed. The blood was confirmed to be Jamila's, and this led authorities to upgrade the charges against Daniel Harmon. What had started as a missing persons case quickly turned into a homicide investigation. After several weeks of investigation, Daniel Harmon was officially arrested and charged with kidnapping, domestic violence, and eventually murder. His previous attempts to cover up the crime had failed, and the forensic evidence from the scene of the crime made it clear that Jamila had not jumped in front of his car, as he had initially claimed. Instead, the evidence indicated that Daniel Harmon had intentionally run Jamila over. Authorities believe that after running Jamila over with his car, Daniel tried to cover up the crime by telling her to get back into the vehicle. He never took her to the hospital as he claimed, and Jamila's family continued to search for her in the days that followed. The community and her family were left waiting for answers, but the investigation was far from over. Police worked tirelessly to uncover the truth behind what happened that fateful evening. In the early stages of the investigation, authorities focused on gathering as much physical evidence as possible. The blood found in Daniel's car played a crucial role in linking him to Jamila's murder. Further forensic analysis confirmed that the blood was indeed Jamila's, but what remained unclear was her exact fate after the call dropped on the 911 call. Had she been left to die by the side of the road, or had something more sinister occurred after she screamed out for help? With no sign of Jamila and the case officially classified as a homicide, authorities had to dive deeper into Daniel Harmon's history. His long record of domestic violence, drug abuse, and mental health issues had been well documented, and the investigation revealed that his violent tendencies were not a new development. He had been a ticking bomb, and Jamila, unfortunately, had become his latest victim. In the days following his arrest, Daniel showed very little emotion. When he appeared in court, he barely reacted to the pleas made by Jamila's family. Her father, James Smith, had spoken directly to Harmon, asking him to reveal the location of Jamila's body and to stop wasting everyone's time. But Daniel's cold indifference was chilling. He was finally behind bars, but the heartache and grief for Jamila's family had just begun. As the days passed with no leads, Jamila's family and friends launched their own search for the missing mother. They posted flyers, shared her story on social media, and even coordinated search efforts in the area where she had last been. They also put out a reward of $5,000 for anyone who could have information about her whereabouts. They later increased the amount to $10,000, with the hopes that would motivate any eyewitness to come forward. The anguish of not knowing where she was or what had happened to her was unbearable for those who loved her.
It's been nearly a month since Jamila Smith vanished from her home right here off Old Jackson Highway. Private investigator Chandra Cleveland says the Smith family has been patiently waiting on a call that would bring comfort. But when the phone rang 2 days before Christmas,
silence. It was silence for a while.
On the other line, Aiken County informed the family they have enough evidence to charge Millie's ex-boyfriend Daniel Harmon with her murder. Cleveland says her mother, Tina, unable to form words, remains in shock.
This is going to be the hardest time she ever had to deal with. And, Millie's children are asking for her.
Life as anyone knew it forever changed.
Even harder when kids have to be split up and they're used to being with their mom. They're used to getting things all together and being together. And now they have been separated because of an act of crime. such as this murder.
While investigators are not sure where her body could be, Cleveland says she does know one thing.
Even the case is not closed. I don't want anybody to think by any stretch of imagination the case is closed. So if you find out anything or you hear anything, please reach out to me.
They held on to the hope that Jamila might be found alive, but with each passing day, that hope began to fade. That was until her efforts would pay off. On May 10th, 2024, nearly 6 months after she vanished, investigators would locate 30-year-old Jamila Chen Smith's remains in a rural wooded area.
An update to a story we've been tracking for you out of Aiken County. Investigators say they have located the body of missing mother Jamila Smith. She had not been seen since December 2nd and has been presumed dead by investigators. Aiken Bureau Chief Sean Capachtalk has the latest.
It's been a tremendous effort in trying to resolve this case.
On Thursday, investigators discovered human remains in a wooded area on Silver Bluff Road, identified as Jamila Smith. The 30-year-old disappeared on December 2nd.
She was buried, so we had to use assistance.
An autopsy revealed she had died from multiple gunshot wounds to the head, confirming what investigators had suspected all along, that she was murdered by her ex-boyfriend, Daniel Harmon. Jamila's story reached people across the country, and many were outraged by the brutal nature of the crime. Calls for justice grew louder with each passing day. The community's response to Jamila's tragic death was one of shock and sorrow. In Jackson, South Carolina, where Jamila had grown up, many people remembered her as a kind and loving woman who only wanted the best for her children. Her friends recalled her laughter and her warm personality, and they expressed disbelief that someone could harm her so brutally.
Her family and friends say it's hard to put into words how they are feeling right now and how they've been feeling for the last month. I spoke to some of her closest friends who grew up with Jamila about who Jamila was and the impact she's made on everyone she's met.
When Millie walked in the room, it was more so like her beauty won. You know, like, she's beautiful. Millie has always just been the little pretty, beautiful little thing. But it was like her spirit. Like, she never let nobody feel like they were less than anything.
Jamila was always there for everyone she loved. Her closest friends say she was the glue that held them together.
I don't have that no more. Like, you know, like, it's not there anymore. I have no one to call, you know, talk to. So, you know, it's hard. It really is hard.
Losing so much while having so little information about what happened and why.
But since the day I met Jamila, like I said, we had an unbreakable bond. Like, I truly love Jamila. I can't remember a day that I haven't since I met her.
Her friends say her smile lit up a room, and there wasn't anything she wouldn't do for the people she loved.
I don't know, it's just a hard situation to deal with because it's like, you know, I'm used to having someone there pretty much as long as I can remember as far as friendship and love and genuine connection.
Her family, devastated by the loss, rallied together to honor her memory. Jamila's mother, Tina, became a vocal advocate for justice, speaking to the media about her daughter's suffering and the abuse she endured at the hands of Daniel Harmon. She refused to let her daughter's death be in vain and called for more resources to help victims of domestic violence. Her friends also spoke out, recalling how she had tried to protect herself and her children from the abusive relationship. Many were heartbroken that Jamila never had the chance to escape before it was too late. They also expressed frustration at the lack of action from authorities earlier on, feeling that more could have been done to prevent the violence. Community leaders, inspired by Jamila's story, began to push for stronger support systems for victims of domestic violence. They also began to raise awareness about the importance of speaking out and offering help to those who are suffering in silence. No one should have to live in fear, and there is always a way out. We must also hold abusers accountable for their actions. Daniel Harmon's history of violence was well known, and yet Jamila still found herself trapped in his grasp. It is vital that we all stand up against domestic violence and make sure that victims receive the support they need. Jamila's story is a heartbreaking reminder of the dangers of staying in an abusive relationship, and it serves as a call to action for all of us. We must do better for the victims of domestic violence, and we must continue to raise awareness about the signs of abuse and how to get help. Let's work together to prevent another tragedy like this one. What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.